Okay, today's lesson is lesson 3.1 out of the 8th grade Big Ideas book. The objective, students will write the equation of a line given the slope and the y-intercept. The standard covered in this lesson is 8EE6. The page numbers out of the hardcover book are pages 106 through 111, and out of the practice journal, pages 55 through 58. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start reviewing very quickly our y-intercept form. So here we have y equals negative 1/4 x minus 7. And we're going to go through and identify the slope and the y-intercepts of these equations. And this is really just a review of stuff that we did back in chapter 2 and breaking down the different parts of the y-intercept equation. So in this equation, our slope is always, normally we have our equation as y equals mx plus b, and we have always identified that our slope is that number that's right next to the x. So here in this example, our slope is negative 1/4, and our y-intercept is where it crosses the y line, and that, when we used to go through and graph it out, we would always start with negative 7, and that's where we always put our initial point. So our y-intercept in that equation is negative 7. So that's just kind of reviewing some of the stuff that we've used back from chapter 2. Today, what we're going to be working with, and this is in your practice journal, I believe it's page 55, but let me check quick. Yeah, this is page 55. I just have the colored version of what you have. This is your letter D on page 55. So working through on this, we're going to go ahead and identify the y-intercept and the slope of each of the lines. So I'm going to make just a T-chart to make it easier for us to kind of go through. And we're going to do our slope on one side and our y-intercept on the other. And I'm just going to put y-int just for an abbreviation. And I'm going to go ahead and label these, and you can label them the same in your book. So I'm just going to say this is line A because I know you guys are working off of black and white. This is line B, and this is line C. Okay, so now when I go through to do these, instead of red, it's the same as your line A. This is line B, and this is line C. We're going to go ahead and identify the slope and the y-intercept. So when I look at my red line, your A line, I need to pick the slope by picking two spots where the line is crossing corners. So I'm noticing that it's crossing a corner here, and it's also crossing a corner there. And it's in multiple places you could pick. You don't have to pick where I picked them. It just has to cross the corner of a box. So now when I do my rise and my run, the rise is 1, the run is 1. So that would be a slope of 1, but we do have to also pay attention to the fact that this is going down from left to right. So that would be a negative 1 for our slope. Our y-intercept is where it crosses our y line. So if we see where the red line crosses the y line, it's right here, which is at 0. So we're just going to go ahead and say it crosses at 0. Okay, so we're done working with that red line. So now when we go through and we look at my blue line or your B line out of your book, once again, we'll go ahead and do the rise and the run. So picking two spots, I'm noticing, well, it's crossing the y-intercept right there. And then if I follow the line, it's also crossing right here. Okay, so if I do my rise and my run, well, the rise was 2 boxes and the run was 1. So that would be 2/1 or 2. And that is a positive slope because it's going up from left to right. So that's a positive. The other part I need is my y-intercept, where it crosses the y line, which is right here, which is our origin or 0. Okay, and our third line is the green line on the screen, or it's your letter C line in your book. So on my green line, once again, I'm going to pick 2 spots. So I'm going to pick the origin or my y-intercept. I'm actually just going to go ahead and write that in right away. And then I'm going to follow the line until it crosses a box corner. So no, no, yes, right there. And now I'm going to do my rise and my run. So my rise is 1. My run is 3. So that would be 1/3. And it's a positive because it's going up from left to right. So there's all of my answers for my different lines for my slope and y-intercept. And you'll notice they all crossed at the exact same point, and that was at point 0. Okay, so let's go ahead and try another one. Let me see, I don't want to do that one. I'm going to leave that one for you guys. That's not it, so I guess we will pull this one back out. Oh. Okay, so, well, that's not the one I wanted. My goodness, I'm struggling with my Smartboard here. Okay, so this is your letter C that you guys have. So when we go through and we do our letter C, we'll notice that, once again, it's the same concept that we're gonna go through and do. So we're gonna go ahead and find our x and y intercepts, not our x and y intercepts, our slope and our y-intercepts. And then let's label these as, we'll just do A, B, and C. So mine are slightly changed. So instead of this, this is now going to be C, my blue line. My red line is A, and my green line is B. And I know that you guys will probably have them as A, B, C. So that's just how I'll do it. I'll write it out as A, B, C instead of red, green, blue. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and do, what do we notice about our y-intercept on all of these? They all fall on the same point, which is 3. So 3, 3, 3. I don't even have to do that part of it. So now the only other step is to go through and do our slope. So we're gonna pick 2 points where it crosses. So I'll go ahead and start with A. So not on a corner, not on a corner, not on a corner, here's a corner. Okay, so I'm gonna do my rise and my run off of that. My rise is 1, 2, 3, 4. And my run is 1, 2, 3. So I get 4 over 3. And it is going up, so that's a positive 4 over 3. For B, well, I've got this point, and then if I follow it, not on a corner, no, 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 here's our corner. So my rise is 1. My run is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's a 1 over 6. And that also is positive because it's going up from left to right. And then for C, here's my other point right there. So my rise, I'm going to erase all this other stuff so that it doesn't look so confusing. My rise and my run, the rise is 1, the run is 1, 2, 3. So it's 1 over 3. And that is going down from left to right, so it's a negative 1/3. Okay, so what I would like you to do is I'd like you to go ahead and finish out page 55 with your A and B. And you'll notice that on A and B, they do not intersect at the same point. So your y-intercepts are all going to be different on there. But you will notice after you do one of them that there is something similar between those. And that's because they're all parallel. So maybe some of you remember from chapter 2 what happens when we have parallel lines. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on with working some different equations. So when I go through and I look at this graph that they've given me, I do want to review with you the fact that if you ever have a line that goes straight across, there is no rise. That means that it's a slope of 0. And so to write the equation for that, you're going to write that out as, well, we have no slope, so we don't have that x portion of it. So we're just going to go ahead and give what the y-intercept was, which on this one, the y-intercept is that crossed right here, which was at -4. So here we would get -4 as our y-intercept. Okay, so that's just kind of reviewing and reminding you that when you have a straight line across, it is crossing the y line, so you'll still have a y, but there's no slope, so you don't include a slope portion of it. Okay, so we're going to tie that into something a little more complex, and that's working with when you have a picture that involves more than one line. So here we actually have 4 sides of this parallelogram, and this is also in your book, and it's on page, let me look, I think it's the next page, page 56, maybe up at the top. Page 56, yeah, kind of in the middle. This is your letter B on page 56. Okay, so when we go through and we work through this, we're actually going to have 4 different sides. So I'm going to go ahead and label these. We'll just say this one's A, B, C, and D. And so when I write these out, I'm going to have 4 different equations, A, B, C, and D. So when I look at my shape that I have here, I like to start with the things that are the easiest to do. So that would be my straight lines across. So when I look at, for example, B, and if I were to take this line of B and extend it all the way across. Just because it's only 4 boxes wide doesn't mean that that line doesn't extend all the way across. Okay, that's very similar to what we just reviewed through. And so when we do this, we have no slope. So we don't have that x portion of our equation. We're just going to have the y equals. And then where it crosses the y line, and that's between 6 and 4. It's not labeled on there, so that would be 5. And D is going to be also similar to that. So it crosses this line right here. Although it doesn't cross the y line, if we were to extend that line out, it would cross at -2. So there is no slope to that side, but it crosses at -2 if we were to extend out that side to see where it would cross or extend out that side to see where it would cross out our y-intercept. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and work with our other 2 sides. I'm going to erase the stuff that I don't need here. So if I were to work off of side A, we're going to go ahead and do our y-intercept equation. So we've got our y equals, here's where our slope is. So I know that I have to count that out yet, but I can see right away that it's crossing right here on the y-intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that part into my equation, and that is at +5. Okay, so if I go ahead and now do my slope, I'm noticing that it doesn't matter where I pick, but here's the next box as to where it's crossing a corner of a line. So when I look at that and I count out the slope, the rise and the run, okay, our rise and our run would be 1/1, which would be a 1x. And that is positive because it's going from left to right, it's going up. Okay, so now let's go ahead and look at C. So once again, I like to identify where it crosses the y line, which is right there. So y equals something x, and then it's crossing the y line at +1. So +1 is going to be the back half. Now if I go through and I do my my slope, here it's crossing another corner. So our rise is 1, our run is 1. We get 1/1, which is the same as just 1. What are you noticing about A and C in terms of how they're similar? They both have the same slope. So just a reminder that when you have parallel lines, your parallel lines are always going to have the same slope part. Okay, so if they have a slope, granted, B and D were also parallel. These ones were also parallel, but they didn't have a slope, so they don't have that. They have a slope of 0, which you don't put that into the equation. But when you have a parallelogram, you're always going to have 2 sides that are equal to each other than where they cross that y-intercept. So what I would like you to do for your homework is to finish out pages 55 and then also do letter A on page 56. Okay, that's it for this part. This was just the activity for 3.1. So good luck with that.